I've been a sample-based producer for a long time, and that's kind of the first process that I fell in love with as a beat maker and producer. So generally speaking, what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up right now Tracklib. Tracklib is what I've been going through for finding samples. I like the fact that the process is legal. I don't feel like I have to watch over my shoulder when I use music from there. Tracklib was great. If any of you are sample-based producers and you haven't heard about Tracklib, definitely recommend it. Check it out. But yeah, I'll just browse until my ear perks up. So I'm really just like asking, you know, the universe, so to speak, for some inspiration. I find that when I try to just like white knuckle and go in and just like open Ableton and like start doing something, it doesn't usually bear fruit. So yeah, just I'll browse. I'll either go through Tracklib or like records, or sometimes just put on Spotify. Usually I try to put on music that I like wouldn't normally listen to.
Mm,
Like, I don't know. Like sometimes I'll just put on like top 40, today's top hits or something,
mm.
and just try to mine that for something that's like, oh, that's weird. That's interesting. What is that? And then I'll go off of that. And then from there, I just try to incorporate that, whatever that idea is, whatever that seed is, into a hip hop beat.
So does that mean once you find a sample that works for you, then you're like, okay, drums next?
Generally speaking, when I find the sample, I chop it first.
Mm,
My first order of business is like, okay, this is cool. I look for something that I feel like I can rephrase in
mm.
some way. And so my first order of business is always, okay, these are cool textures, these are cool sounds. I like this movement. Let me see what I can rearrange this into. And that's just like an exploration phase.
Gotcha.
And sometimes that goes really well, and sometimes it's really quick, and sometimes it just leads somewhere totally unexpected, and sometimes it's a dead end. I think important to try and find that out. And if that doesn't work, usually I got a few more in me before I start to get like, okay, maybe today's not the day. Or sometimes it's like, oh God, like it's hitting,
Hmm.
things are good. So it's really kind of out of my hands in a big way. It just feels like, it's either going to happen or it's not.
Yeah, I mean, what's really cool about that, man, is it sounds like you're not trying to force anything, and you're trying to find something that's like inviting you forward instead of trying to maybe push something into happening.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a big tension there because like I want something to happen, but I
Sure.
gotta like not try too hard. Because if I
Right.
try too hard, then it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna feel right. So
Yeah.
yeah, you really gotta like be kind of hands off about it, which is why I like this process so much. It's
Sure.
something that, I think in my life I could use a little bit more of. It's just like, yeah, let's hands off here. Let's just see what happens.
Absolutely. I mean, also knowing you and being somewhat familiar with your process, you're also somebody who really puts in work to build tools and efficiency.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of wondering if you can speak on that a little bit, where that comes from and what that does for you.
I tend to be a fairly organized person, although if you saw the state of my house right now, you might believe otherwise. But I like to just get things out of the way. So if I notice that there's something that I've been doing repeatedly, and I use Ableton. So say there's like some process in Ableton
Hmm.
that I've just been like doing over and over that takes multiple steps that like could take fewer steps. It's like, okay, I'm gonna automate that in some way. I'm gonna figure out some workaround or some way to just like make this faster because I don't want to have to think about that. If an idea is striking and I'm like, ooh, 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 like we're here, man. Like it's happening. The last thing I want to do is have to stop and think about some mechanical process, interfacing with the DAW or whatever. So yeah, I build in a lot of like custom stuff into my template. Like it's all set up. All my inputs are like ready to go when
Hmm.
I open up Ableton. Like I don't have to do anything. And that's I just like working fast like that. It's basically being the trying to be the producer and engineer to my own artist. Essentially,
Right.
it's like if I was my own client, what would I want?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think there's also something to be said maybe for just like removing as many of the potential blocks and speed bumps from idea to getting it recorded before you forget it. Right. And so it's in
Exactly.
the same way that like whether you play instruments or not, it's Ableton and its various tools are essentially instruments. And so the
Mhm.
better that you understand them, like the more quickly things can kind of flow through. And I feel like that's kind of what you're describing in terms of how you get through that.
Exactly. Exactly. You're just
Yeah.
making it easy
Yeah.
for yourself.
Very cool. So what are some things you think about maybe when you look back on how you used to make beats versus now, like things that maybe have changed and evolved over time?
I don't know. I mean, I think over time I've gotten a little bit more comfortable with trying to say less with each beat. I think when I was younger, I was like really excited to find a process that seemed like it was really working and like connecting with people. And I was very lucky to reach at least a modest audience when I was young. And I think it was like, damn, this is really cool. Like something that I'm just like having fun with is like reaching people.
Mhm.
And I think I tried to throw a lot each beat because of that, because I really
Mhm.
wanted to connect. But when I listen back, I'm like, I can hear that. I'm like, ooh, you were trying pretty hard, man. Which, like, I love myself for it. But
Yeah.
it's one of those things that now that I'm a little bit older and I've listened to more music and I've just spent more time doing this, I'm like, yeah, like simple is cool. Simple is better. And feeling is I think the most important thing. And so I've been trying to like, okay, another example. When I was younger, I was programming my drums constantly. Like everything was, it wasn't necessarily quantized, but it was all programmed like
Mm.
to a grid of some kind. Even if the grid was swung, a la Chris Dave or Questlove or, like those kinds of swung drunk rhythms and whatnot. But it was all sort of computer generated and there wasn't that much humanity. And I can hear that now and I'm like, oh man, like it's a little cold. I can hear
Mm.
the digital, I can hear the DAW.
Mm.
Now I kind of I have a drum kit now in my room or just like a hat and snare
Mhm.
and I find that it just feels so much better to get that like human touch, even though I'm a pretty bad drummer.
Mm.
Uh, I just like the way that comes through and what that says just feels a lot more organic. So I'm just trying to incorporate more like sort of humility and like humanity in the stuff that I make.
You have to do a lot to learn that it may be better to do less.
Yeah. And leave in mistakes,
Yeah. Yeah,
you
absolutely.
know?
I mean, I think, yeah, man, there's something cool about that. I think I've experienced that too, where because something is loop based or because like you have the ability to like kind of dial everything in, that it's something that you almost are like kind of tempted to just always keep doing and
Hmm.
leaning on. But those little moments are, I think, pretty special.
Yeah. 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 I think over time you start to learn how to recognize it.
Yeah. Very cool. What is it that excites you about sampling, or what do you feel like it teaches you about production?
Well, I think it's a pretty specific form of production. So I don't, I think it's not like the most comprehensive teacher, which is something that I've always tried to stay aware of. As I have a lot of peers who like pop music, and we just have totally different perspectives on production. And it's interesting. It's really cool. But I think what it teaches you is like a certain reverence for like music of the past and how to listen for different things. Like I find that I listen to music often for texture and for like smaller moments that I'm like, oh, that would be a sick chop. Like, oh
Hmm.
God, like I would love to have this as like a end of the phrase, sort of like climactic. So I'm kind of dissecting music now in my head in a way that I'm like, that's like not normal, but it's kind of cool. Like you sort of like find the constituent parts of music that make it interesting
Mm.
and you're assembling a collage of them. And so I don't know. I find that process really fun, and it kind of teaches you how to listen to things a little bit more like just removed, I guess,
Mm.
which is a double-edged sword. It's definitely a fun way to collaborate, I think, with the past.
And I guess like because I know that you also spend a good bit of time teaching people that want to learn production as well.
Hmm.
And I feel like you've mentioned to me that you've encouraged them a lot of times to kind of embrace sampling, especially when they're getting started.
Hmm.
And maybe even no matter where they are, just as a way to continue to educate and inspire themselves. Like speak to
Hmm.
that a little bit.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, I think sampling is a great teacher for many reasons. Obviously, you're gonna listen to a lot of music in the course of finding samples, and especially a lot of music that you wouldn't normally listen to. And I think that's one of the greatest gifts of producing sample-based music is like you're just gonna expose yourself to a lot, and it's not gonna be not necessarily gonna be music that is like current
Hmm.
and like trendy or like it's not gonna be pushed to you. You have to go out and find it.
Mm.
That I think is a skill in and of itself, and really fun and rewarding when you do find a gem and you're like, oh my God, like this never would have been pushed to me, if I hadn't knocked on the right doors. So I think it teaches you that, teaches you how to discover your own taste in a way. And then it also can help, like if you're learning production, it can help supplement your ability to finish things because you're basically taking an already finished work and you're using that in some way, either as the basis of your song or as an accessory to an arrangement that's already started, and you're just making it easier for yourself to complete something. So when I was 18, 19, first started making sample based beats, I didn't know what I was doing, but because I had this sort of finished song that was helping along with an arrangement, it was like, oh well, I can do this.
Hmm.
And that basic encouragement helped me out so much because I believed in myself, maybe a little too much, but I believed in myself because I was able to finish songs and they sounded good. and thanks to the samples in large part, but also thanks to like, okay, this is a great starting point. Now I just got to like make some smacking drums and like maybe write a bass line and like, okay, we're good.
How do you
Yeah.
deal with that sense of, because you kind of just mentioned a second there, kind of that motivation piece, you know?
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think that's something that we all struggle with, in some way, shape, or form, no matter where
Yeah.
we are in the journey, if you will. So like I guess maybe how does that come up for you? And then how have you found are effective ways to kind of keep your head in the game?
The motivation piece, man. Oh, I could talk on this for a very long time. Because I think about it all the time, and I'm sure you have your moments where you don't want to be in the studio that day, or like it's just not coming to you, and it's like really frustrating. And maybe you're like, "Wait, why am I doing this? Like, this is insane. This is insane. Like, why would I devote my life to this?"
Yeah.
But then the moments where it all coalesces, right? You're like, "Oh, that's why." Like,
This is
duh,
exactly why.
obviously,
Yeah.
because the joys outweigh the struggles, and whatever brings you the creative high, I think is worth exploring and like and and optimizing for in a way,
Mm.
um and recognizing. For me, I think just like finishing songs and creating sounds around an existing arrangement and like having this sort of conversation with the past through sampling is like that's just so cool.
Yeah.
But I think I mean, I talk to a lot of young producers these days, like who are fairly early in their career or hobby, as it were. And there tends to be a lot of frustration about, and this is just to provide some context here. I primarily exist in the lo-fi hip hop, sample based, like, chill hop, you can call it that sort of world. That's sort of where my career has landed. And so this is relevant to this crew of people and people who aspire to be in this section of the industry. This is not necessarily applicable to everyone. But
Mm.
no, that being said, I find that people are really struggling with motivation at a really early point in their career relative to what I experienced. And it's upsetting to me because I find they normally point to factors like I'm not getting on playlists, or I'm not getting labels to support me, or I can't reach this person. I don't know how to continue. And I don't know how you feel about that, but it strikes me as like maybe we're putting the cart before the horse a little bit because I mean, that's just sort of like an external validation of something that I think like, we got to be having fun with this, man. Like if we're not having fun, like who's going to want to work with you? And B, like, why are you doing it? If you're not making money from it and you're not having fun, okay, like, what's up? And so I think it's just really important to remember that we're doing this to have fun and we're doing this to have the creative high and the self-expression that comes with it, and that should be foremost, and everything
Hmm.
else will fall into place from there. But
Hmm.
if you try to rush the other parts, especially with how competitive, especially in the lo-fi world, and it's so competitive, it's so saturated. There's only a few players who are really controlling a lot of the streaming revenue and whatnot. Like if that's what you're worried about super early on, I get it. Hustle,
Hmm.
hustle, all day long if you want to, but like
Sure.
it's a tough game to get into. Like probably don't go into music if you just want to make money, like
Yeah.
maybe there are better things to do with your time, but it is a fun way to spend your time, I will say.